to read about the latest news from Greece, United States, and our community on newgreektv.com. Offered in English and Greek language, read about politics, the economy, and upcoming events.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to New Greek TV News, English edition.
Enjoy our feature articles on travel, fashion, and health.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Well, we want to hear everything about your background. Tell us a little bit about you.
Watch New Greek TV productions anywhere, anytime on our web TV.
Από την εκπομπή,
Εμείς πάνω σε αυτό το
στα προβλήματα που αντιμετωπίζουμε.
το 35%
Και αυτό που έχει κάνει αυτή η ταινία.
newgreektv.com. Our heritage, our community, our channel.
On the island of Antiparos, at the heart of the Aegean, Gaia produced an exquisite organic olive oil in limited edition, which traveled all the way to the US. The sales of Antiparos olive oil will finance 10 new and innovative Greek companies to grow. Buy today your bottle in reinspiregreece.com and support the Greek youth to move forward.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to New Greek TV's News, English edition. Prime Minister Adonis Samaras visited the port of Piraeus on Wednesday morning in order to be present at the signing of an agreement between ZTE and COSCO in order for the former to begin the operation of a European transit center in Piraeus. In his address, Prime Minister Adonis Samaras noted that the port of Piraeus is a vehicle for strong growth for the whole of Greece. It is a main gateway and international transit node, now linked with the country's railroad infrastructure and therefore with Eastern and Central Europe. Mr. Samaras not only hailed the signing of an agreement between ZTE and COSCO, two colossal companies that effectively utilize the infrastructure and are successfully active within this novel framework of trust and stability that we're building today in our country, but also noted that the specific agreement is the first phase of a long-term investment that is expected to create around 600 job positions by its completion. As the Premier noted, the next phase of the investment includes the creation of a returns and repair center for the broader northeastern Europe and the rapid transformation of this center into an assembly line. The new agreement is considered the foot in the door of many more companies that will invest in Greece, seeking a gateway to the soft underbelly of Europe. Staff teams from the European Commission, European Central Fund, and the International Monetary Fund have concluded their review mission to Greece. The teams have reached staff-level agreement with the authorities on policies that could serve as the basis for completion of the review. The mission and the authorities agreed that the economy is beginning to stabilize and is poised for a gradual resumption of growth, broadly in line with previous projections. Prices are adjusting and inflation remains well below the euro area average. Fiscal performance is on track to meet program targets. Preliminary estimates suggest the 2013 primary balance target was met with a substantial margin, while only a small portion of this overperformance will carry over into 2014. We believe that the 2014 fiscal targets will also be met, taking into account the measures being implemented and planned. The authorities reconfirmed their commitment to implementing policies needed to achieve the 2015 primary surplus target of 3% of GDP, including as needed by extending expiring fiscal measures such as the solidarity surcharge. The authorities are making progress on structural reforms to improve the growth potential and flexibility of the Greek economy and help create a fairer and more supportive environment for investment growth and job creation. They're committed to implementing a very large majority of product market reforms identified by the recent OECD study in the areas of food processing, tourism, building materials, and retail, to taking concrete measures to liberalize the transport and rental markets and open up closed professions, and to reducing Social Security contribution rates and nuisance taxes. Notwithstanding delays, progress is also being made in reforms of the public administration, which should reduce the burden of red tape and improve the quality of public services to the Greek people. Labor market reforms are behind schedule, but the authorities are committed to implementing them gradually in the remainder of 2014. Competitiveness will be further enhanced by energy market reforms, such as the rationalization of pricing policies to ensure adequate cost recovery and avoid hidden subsidies, the split of the public power company into two entities ahead of privatization, and the launch of a fundamental reform of the gas market. The authorities also agreed to revitalize the privatization of other corporate and real estate assets, which would provide needed financing for the state while unlocking investment. Alongside these structural reforms, the authorities are continuing their efforts to strengthen the social safety net to cushion the impact of the economic downturn. Notably, programs to hire youth and unemployed workers under programs financed by EU structural funds will be expanded, and a minimum income guarantee program is being launched on a pilot basis in 2 municipalities with the aim of rolling it out on a phased-in national basis in 2015. The authorities are committed to taking all necessary actions to ensure that banks remain healthy and adequately capitalized and are in a position to support the economic recovery. We take note of the stress test results and attendant capital needs estimates by the Bank of Greece. However, according to the assessment of the mission teams, there are upside risks to the capital needs estimates. In particular, if the authorities and banks do not urgently and efficiently address the high level of non-performing loans. Swift recapitalization of banks will strengthen their balance sheets. The envisaged injection of fresh private capital into the Greek banks is a sign of confidence and will help to strengthen the private management of Greek banks. The Bank of Greece should remain vigilant in its oversight of the banking system and proceed forcefully in requiring banks to quickly work out their large stock of problem assets. The authorities are also committed to significantly strengthening the private sector debt resolution framework and facilitating the orderly and swift workout of impaired bank assets. The buffers in the Hellenic Financial Stability Fund will be retained to meet future adverse contingencies. The Eurogroup and the IMF's Executive Board are expected to consider approval of the review in the coming weeks. The list of victims of the flu virus lengthens, with victims reaching over 100, most of which belong to high-risk groups and were not vaccinated. An increase is also recorded in the number of people hospitalized in intensive care units, ICUs. According to data from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, KLPNO, 54 people are hospitalized in serious condition, increasing the overall number of people that have been hospitalized since the beginning of winter to 268. State Real Estate Fund, TAIPED, has asked Lambda Development for an improved offer for the Hellinikon property deal, as it always does in such cases, with the decision expected by month's end. TAIPED announced that in a joint conference with the Assessment Council, it unsealed the assessment of the independent assessor for the sale of 100% of the shares of Hellinikon SA. This was followed by the unsealing of the binding economic bid by Lambda Development in the presence of company representatives. Financial advisors, Citigroup and Piraeus Bank, with the aid of TAIPED's expert counselor, Happold Consulting, will proceed to assessing the rationale and legality of the final binding offer from Lambda Development on the basis of internationally accepted assessment standards and processes, the fairness opinion. The board of TAIPED, after taking into account all the above, as well as the report from the Assessment Council, will decide at a later council meeting whether to announce or not a preferred investor, a process expected to be finalized by the end of March. Pantheon, a new project from the Macro Connections Group and MIT's Media Lab, is taking the idea of fame to its limits, seeking to map out how famous people are throughout history. Fame comes in all sorts of varieties, and as Clive James wrote, Jesus Christ was the first person to achieve it globally without conquering the world by violence. But because of its elusive qualities, fame is hard to quantify, especially if you have to account for locality, time constraints, the emergence of modern media, etc. Pantheon, a new project from the Macro Connections Group and MIT's Media Lab, is taking the idea a bit further and trying to do just that. It has collected and analyzed data on cultural production from 4000 BC to 2010. With a few clicks on its website, which recently hit the net, you can swing through time and geography, making plain the output of, say, Brazil, which is largely soccer players, or Belarus, politicians, and it also ranks professions from chemists to jurists to porn stars. For Greeks, it's a boon, as 5 of the top 10 personalities in world history are Greek. For now, one can be legitimately famous, according to the MIT team, if a Wikipedia page under your name exists in more than 25 languages. So who are the 10 most famous people of the last 6,000 years? First is Aristotle, Plato second, Jesus Christ, Socrates, Alexander the Great, Leonardo da Vinci, Confucius, Julius Caesar, Homer, and Pythagoras. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us for this English Edition News. Tune in next week. This was Themis Styliopoulos for New Greek TV.
On the island of Antiparos, at the heart of the Aegean, Gaia produced an exquisite organic olive oil in limited edition, which traveled all the way to the US. The sales of Antiparos olive oil will finance 10 new and innovative Greek companies to grow. Buy today your bottle in reinspiregreece.com and support the Greek youth to move forward.
Daily to read about the latest news from Greece, United States, and our community on newgreektv.com. Offered in English and Greek language, read about politics, the economy, and upcoming events.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to New Greek TV News, English Edition.
Enjoy our feature articles on travel, fashion, and health.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Well, we want to hear everything about your background. Tell us a little bit about where.
Watch New Greek TV productions anywhere, anytime on our web TV.
Από την εκπομπή
Εμείς πάνω σε αυτό το
στα προβλήματα που αντιμετωπίζει.
το 35%
Και αυτό που έχει κάνει αυτή η ταινία
newgreektv.com. Our heritage, our community, our channel.